Hi friends. This is gonna be a couple of weeks in my life living in New York City. The last couple of weeks have been like obviously filled with lots of work because, you know, I'm employed. I need to make a living. Just kind of taking you through some of my like normal routines, which I guess I'm kind of pretty established in, but still establishing because I'm in my first year at a new job. So that's always fun. But we've also just done a bunch of cool shit in the last several weeks. So I'm gonna take you through some of that as well. More on that later. But before I get into the video, I should introduce myself. My name is Mackenzie. This is my channel, Think Too Much. I like to post vlogs, just kind of following my life and my like normal routines in New York City, but also kind of featuring and like peppered with various kind of life reflections because I'm a pretty reflective person, if the channel name was any indication. So if that sounds of interest to you, please stick around. And if not, thank you for giving it a shot. Let's get into the video. The middle and end of our summer was in New York, which made for a really fun summer because we just got to take advantage of the city in a way that I feel like I haven't done in a while. So that was really lovely. And it also kind of gave me the opportunity to kind of get used to routines with my new-ish job. If you've been following along, I'm about like 6 months into a new job that I started. So I'm pretty like in the swing of things, but I feel like there are some kind of routines and habits that I'm still kind of fine-tuning and figuring out how I want to kind of show up in my life, I guess, question mark. Anyway, that's been the last couple of weeks. We also recently got to make it to a Harry Potter play. I think it's called The Cursed Child. We had like a random day off work that we both took, and it was a lot of fun. We just kind of like walked around and did New York things. It was lovely. Okay, so probably the coolest thing that we got to do in the last several weeks was going to the US Open. It's my first time ever going to the US Open. They hold it in Queens, and we just, I don't know, haven't had the opportunity. I think last year we were in California for our wedding. And also I'm not like a huge sports fan, so it's definitely not like the instinct to go to the US Open. But it was very cool, and like the whole setup is really impressive, and we tried that super viral drink. It was okay. I think Max liked it more than I did. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We saw, I think the main thing that we saw was Coco Gauff and someone she was competing with who is a big deal also. Like I said, not really a sports person, but it was very cute. I did my best to dress in an outfit that was tennis friendly, tennis appropriate, whatever the hell that means. Yeah, we got to see our friend, which was really lovely. She works for the USDA, so we got to catch up with her. We're actually about to go to our wedding in October, which is very exciting. Yeah, all around good time. Hello vlog. So we're cooking a pasta tonight. These are the mushrooms for the pasta. I thought I'd take you through the like cooking process and how we like make food that's vegan not taste like shit. If you're seeing this, it's because this pasta turned out okay. But basically with mushrooms, you put them on the stove, you let them like leak out all their juices and then absorb them back up. So these are like about ready to have other things thrown into the pan with them. And then we're trying to like kind of recreate, or I don't know what's the word, rework like a risotto recipe to be not risotto because I don't like risotto. So we're gonna try to boil pasta in broth, which if this recipe goes poorly, this is probably like the main culprit. Anyway, we're gonna add, this has been salted and peppered, but otherwise no seasonings. I guess like one tip right out the gate is that you should be salting your food like throughout the process. It shouldn't be like one step in the middle, beginning, or end. It should be every step of the process, you're like adding salt, assuming you haven't added too much already. Yeah, we're gonna add some onion and garlic and keep moving. See, I'm salting it again now that the onion and the garlic is in. Max is blending this, what is it? Oh, white miso paste and some vegan batter. Cut up some parsley. Okay, so right now I'm trying an onion to make sure that it's not too like hard before we put in the sauce ingredients, because if you put sauce ingredients in the like cooking onion, it'll disrupt the cooking essentially and be really hard to make it like edible in the way that you want. Okay, so now that I've confirmed that the onion is cooked enough or cooked to my satisfaction, this is where like the reworking comes in, because this is like a risotto recipe. I'm going to take some of this broth that was boiling and put it in here in order to kind of allow this like paste to better like mix with the stuff that's being sauteed right now. Everyone compliment Max's videography skills. The liquid just kind of allows this to like break down further, otherwise it will just like kind of glom onto the vegetables in a way that's like gross and piecey and like difficult to work with. So this kind of allows it to spread out like more of a sauce. And then from there, we're gonna add the pasta in, and then once the pasta's in, we can like assess the like flavor and like the liquid to pasta amount. And if we need the sauce to be like a little bit more liquidy, we will put in more ladles of broth to do that. And then we're gonna work on the flavor and just like verifying that the flavor is good, it's edible, and then making kind of tweaks from there. The recipe called for white wine, which we did not have or bother to purchase. So we used white wine vinegar instead. We just like cut it to just like a portion of the amount of white wine that it called for, because vinegar is obviously a lot more pungent. I'm recording you. Transferring the pasta.
I feel like I've got to go faster.
What? We added the parsley at this step because we're fake vegetable lovers, so we don't like the crunch of greens in our pasta. Okay, so pasta is in. We've added spinach. I'm a little worried about the noodles getting like overcooked. They probably already are, honestly. But anyway, we've got all of our like vegetables in, parsley's in, spinach is in. I taste tested. It's a little bit sour, I think, from between like the miso paste and the white wine vinegar. So what I want to add is nutritional yeast, because that'll add kind of like a nutty and like cheesy flavor component, and like that's kind of like a salty flavor, so that should like balance out the sourness nicely and just like give it a little bit more flavor, because it is like kind of mostly sour and nothing else. I'm usually pretty generous with nutritional yeast if I'm adding it to a recipe. Probably same logic as like adding cheese to something. Like if you're adding cheese, there's just never enough cheese, in my opinion. And I think that if I try this and if it continues to kind of be mostly, just kind of like just like an overly simple palette, because that's something with vegan food that like, can be really tricky to work with, is that oftentimes you cook things, you finish the meal, and you taste it, and it tastes like a little bit empty. And I think it's because like we're just so used to like dairy and like meat kind of providing this like background of flavor. With veganism, you gotta like work a little bit harder to get the depth of flavor that you want for it to be like satisfying meal. So basically, if the nutritional yeast doesn't get us there, which I suspect it won't, in terms of adding kind of like a nuttiness and like a saltiness, like a savoriness, I might add a tahini for like a little bit like thickness to add to the sauce. And to just give it kind of like, I don't know, more depth, for lack of a better word, because I've said that like 6 times. And then otherwise, I would potentially add some veggie bouillon, because this was initially a risotto, which meant that the broth was going to do a lot of work in terms of flavoring, and like we've got a bunch of broth there that obviously doesn't like seep into the noodles in the same way they would if it was a risotto. So that'll kind of like add that flavor back in. And then I'll probably try to stick to those kind of 3 potential things, because I've made the mistake many times in the past of trying to add too many different things to fix the flavor, especially when it's kind of like this, where it's like a little bit bland and a little bit like more forward in like one department. And those are our most disgusting meals. So we're gonna keep it simple. So I did a flavor check of the pasta, and it's still like a little more sour forward than I want, and the nutritional yeast added like a nice component, but I don't think it's gonna give me like the depth that I quite want. And I think that we need like the earthiness from this Better Than Bouillon paste, and I'm gonna mix it with a liquid component, that way it's easier to kind of fold into the pasta. I think this is about 2 tablespoons. Okay, so I've added the Better Than Bouillon. I'm gonna try it. My suspicion is that I will want the tahini regardless. And I think that's because otherwise this pasta is just gonna taste like a brothy pasta with mushrooms. And I think that the tahini will give it like, just like a little extra something. And it'll keep us fuller, so that's good. Oh, that's actually really good. But I think the tahini will be good. And I just thought of what the tahini will add. It will add fat. So a book that I read that really kind of helped me improve my vegan cooking and like specifically achieve that kind of depth of flavor that I always felt like I was missing in the recipes that I made was the book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Like obviously that book is kind of talking about cooking more generally, and like, I mean, I think most of her recipes are dairy and meat recipes, but the concepts do apply to vegan food, and honestly were incredibly helpful. So whenever I like taste something, I try to like essentially ascertain like what flavors come forward the most in order to figure out what might be missing. So this was really sour, and that kind of tells me like sour because I associate that with like an acid. That tells me like salt and a fat is needed. So that's why I go with like the bouillon for like the earthiness and savoriness, more salt, nutritional yeast, tahini for the fat. Yeah, I think that's really good.
It's totally good?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, fuck yeah.
I think
Pasta.
I'm gonna do one last little like glaze of broth. I think in an ideal world, we would have figured out the sauce before adding the pasta in. I mean, just like obviously we would have, that's kind of why this recipe was for risotto and not shells, because obviously the risk of putting the pasta in means that you're like fucking up the pasta noodles every time you're stirring, but also it's fine. This doesn't need to be like pretty, it's just needs to taste good. Woods of me recording. I think I'm gonna call it here. I've really taken you through, it's been like a very exhaustive account of the last few weeks. Or not like exhaustive, like I haven't recorded literally every little thing, but good deal of things. So thanks so much for watching. If you stuck around this long, appreciate you. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for being here, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.